Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an amazing, successful marketing guru, branding guru from Minneapolis, USA, Kate DiLeo. Kate, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Kate is the chief brand architect and an international best-selling author, and we will speak about her book. She's an author of a book titled Muting the Megaphone, Stop Telling Stories and Start Having Conversations. So, Kate, before we talk branding, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
Sure. Well, I've had kind of a zigzag path, to get where I am. I think many of us, if you're listening to this today, and maybe you can relate, not all of us have this perfectly straight line in our career. And so for me, actually, Ashutosh, like it began when I left academia. I was planning to pursue a PhD in linguistic anthropology, which is really the study of how language shapes cultures. I was planning to pursue that, and the market crashed. And when the market crashed many years ago, I had to make a decision to really go get a job and pay off my school debt and start to build a career for myself. And so actually, I fell into branding because I took a sales job. I took a sales job cold calling IT professionals to sell them $2,000 training classes.
Wow.
Which that's not a smart job to take. I don't think many IT professionals like to be called and like to be sold to.
Right.
But I took this job, and it was in that job that I came up with a simple formula of a brand pitch that really got people to want to stay on the phone with me. And so that was the beginning for me, was experimenting and trying to figure out a way, how can I get the person on the other side of that call to want to have a conversation with me in an authentic way. And so I came up with my own formula, and now I've spent about 15 years helping companies deploy that same formula.
Wow. And given the amount of experience you've had in supporting so many different companies, my first question to you is, what goes into building a successful brand?
Well, let me talk about it in two ways. So first off, I think when we hear this word brand, it sounds very fluffy, very almost like you can't get your hands around it. But actually, brand, when we think about the messaging side of your brand, I always say that your brand is your path of least resistance to revenue. And so in order to have a strong brand message, here's what it needs to say. Number one, tell me what you do. Number two, tell me how you solve my problem. And number three, tell me how you're different and better than the rest. Those are the three components of a strong brand message.
Very interesting. And as someone who spent a lot of time in brands, I've been on, and I'm much older. I'm from the boomers generation. We've always seen that. I've always believed brands are living beings. They're like children. They need to be nurtured throughout their life. My question to you, Kate, is how can brands stay relevant for a very long period of time? I mean, there are some companies where brands are 100 years old and some die within a few years.
Well, I think that there's a couple layers to this. So let's talk about that. I think the first layer with any strong brand, what they've done is a very good job of stepping back and actually assessing, first and foremost, what problem do we solve? And secondly, who are we talking to and why? Who are we really going after? So great brands that have this test of time type of feeling know their target audiences very well. And many of them have started with a small population, and they serve that small population. They have niched in, as we say, and over time, more people learn and love them. So the number one, they know who they are, and they know then who they're speaking to. I think the other component about relevance as time goes on is a recognition that as you continue to build market share, And as your audiences expand, you can expand your brand message. Brand is a living thing, but we always want to start with that one or two small audiences who really are going to most deeply resonate. And great brands then expand as they have the demand. Could I give you an example of this?
Of course, please.
Okay. The best brand example that I can tell you that's done this is Facebook. So if you think way back, I can't even believe it's been this long, almost 20 years ago, Facebook launched, okay? And when Facebook launched, in my freshman year of college at the University of Minnesota, we were one of the first classes to be able to get access to Facebook after their beta had completed. And at the time, I don't know if you remember this, you had to have a .edu email address to even be able to sign up.
Correct.
So Facebook started just with college. Their relevancy grew as the demand grew. So what happened was all of a sudden, much to my dismay, 2 years later, my mother joined Facebook. I was like, no, this is not good. Then they changed the age limit from 18 down to 16, then from 16 to 14. So do you see how relevancy is based on demand, not the other way around?
Well said. Well said. When I was reading about you, Kate, you also believe that the brand is the path of least resistance to revenue. Help me understand this and give me an example.
Sure. Well, I say that because I think that, again, our ability in that first 15 to 30 seconds, whether somebody hits your website, meets you in the Zoom room, sees you at an event, our ability to deliver a smart, provocative brand pitch that says, this is what I do, this is how I solve your problem, and this is how I'm different. Isn't that the stuff that's going to get that other person to go, okay, I want to know more. Tell me how it works. Tell me what's included. Tell me the cost. And so the job of our brand, Ashutosh, it's the path of least resistance to revenue because it is the lead in that brings somebody to the point of conversion where they then want to know all of the details about your product or service offering, your pricing, your inclusions, etc. So that's what I mean by your brand is the path of least resistance to revenue.
Very interesting. So now let's talk a little bit about brands and the digital world.
Sure.
Again, from the time I was there, it was all cinema halls and it was all about the radios and so on and so forth, full page ads in newspapers, billboards. Everything has changed to this tiny little handheld phone that is ubiquitous.
Right.
I want to ask you, how are brands going to succeed in this huge digital world?
Wow. It's a big question. How much time do we have?
Absolutely. All the time.
I think brands that succeed in this digital world, and this ties into relevance, is they don't try to be everything for everybody. Great brands really make a decision, again, as to being the best for a particular group of people. And they build a following with that group of people. In the digital world, we have so much noise, so much information. And
Correct.
This is why I called my book like megaphone marketing, right? There's all this stuff coming at you. Well, great brands have a message that really provokes that person, that buyer, to want to engage in a conversation. And they're not worried about trying to serve everybody. They're only concerned with serving the few who are the right type of buyers. That's how you succeed.
Interesting. The next question is that, there are so many different social media platforms. The big ones, of course, are the 4 or 5 big ones like your Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitter and YouTube, etc. But one of the challenges a lot of brand managers are now facing is how do they determine which is the right platform for their brand?
It's a great question. Okay. Well, when I work with clients and when I teach this in masterclass workshops, often what we do is we start, again, go back to the beginning, right? assess for your company or for your brand, say, okay, based on the specific problem I'm solving, who are the one or two audiences who we believe are ideal for us and have the highest probability of purchasing?
Correct.
Once you decide that, here's the question you want to ask. Okay, knowing what ideal looks like for these amazing audiences, what rooms are those people already in, digitally or in person? Said differently, where do you need to show up where they are already showing up to network, solve problems, and learn? Your job as a brand is to go where they already are. So yes, if your people aren't on TikTok, don't worry. Get off TikTok. Well, I actually tested this with my brand for about 18 months. And what I did a few years ago is I took the same content and I posted it LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 7 days a week. Built a following on all four. Which one do you think I actually got traction on? LinkedIn. That was it. That's where my people were. So I have since shut down my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter. And it's interesting. It has served me well because now my audience knows if we want to talk to Kate, go to LinkedIn.
Great response. Thank you. My next question is that, there is a lot of talk about brands and the metaverse. Everyone seems to be talking the metaverse. I was speaking to some other people who are experts in the metaverse, and they're saying big brands are buying real estate in the metaverse. My question to you, Kate, is that how is technology going to change branding and brands?
I think that we are seeing a surge of brands buying in the metaverse and creating their own space in the metaverse and trying to create a sense of place there. Because what we understand as humans right now intrinsically is that there is this next wave of place where people will show up. I believe that technology is a critical component now for brands to make it in the next generation. What we are going to see is that if you do not have the technology operational backing for your brand, it's going to be very hard for you to make it in the next 20 to 30 years. It could be as simple as being able to streamline your operations. But gone are the days where everything can be manually done. Gone are the days where the only way that you reach people is by a phone call. We are now in a world where there's an expectation that as a brand, you have place and space in other realities. And that means that you have to be prepared to invest to have your brand narrative and message show up in those places.
Very interesting. And the next follow-up question to branding is the communication regarding the brand. And the communication platforms have also started to change dramatically because, from what used to be an elevator pitch, which is 30 to 45 seconds, now people are saying, do your pitch in 10 seconds.
That's right.
I want to understand from you, how do brands adapt to this new reality of communicating in a few seconds?
Well, it's interesting. If we get down to the tactical elements here, let's talk about that for a second. Okay, because up until now, I've said, hey, great brands tell you three things, which I call the brand trifecta, by the way. They tell you what you do, how you solve somebody's problem, and how you're different.
Correct.
Okay. In order to be able to quickly get to the bottom point of those three pieces, and get somebody in only about 15 seconds to want to engage, the way that you have to change your actual brand language is to move away from what we call complex storytelling language, which is like paragraphs of information, right? Takes a while to read.
Yeah.
And telling this big story when you walk in the room. Hold on. No, move that over to the side. And instead, what you want are three important pieces from a message standpoint. Number one, a very short, smart tagline. Your tagline is 5 or 6 words, and that's the piece that says what you do. Only 5 or 6 words. Second, a short value proposition statement. It's the big statement that says, here's how I solve your specific pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then third, final, are a set of differentiators, very quick bullet points, 1, 2, 3, that tell somebody how you're different and better than the rest. So you see, by moving away from telling a big story and just getting into these short bullet type of sentences in a brand trifecta, you can actually achieve telling your brand message in 15 seconds.
Well said. One more question about branding, and then we move to your book. When we used to talk about communicating the attributes of a brand, brands would rely on big film stars or sports celebrities. Now there's a new breed of influencers and micro-influencers. How are they, this new group of influencers and micro-influencers, how are they impacting brands, positively or negatively?
I've seen both positive and negative. I think the first piece of advice I would give organizations is you do not have to have influencers. That is a lie. So again, go back to who are we serving? If your target audience does not follow influencers, why do you even worry about it?
Correct.
Do not spend your money there, okay? If it's smarter for you to show up into a CEO mastermind group and get to know people there twice a month and teach a 30-minute workshop, and that's how you get clients, do that. Okay, so that's the first thing. In general, I think influencers, the reason they've been so successful is because they're putting a face and a voice to the story. Here's the thing though. Influencers can also be negative because they make it all about themselves.
True.
And so you run a very big risk with your brand that if you choose to leverage influencers who are not established or understand how to promote a product or service, you sometimes have what I always say is a slippery slope. There can be danger because potentially you're paying all this money to have them promote your product, and instead all they're doing is promoting themselves, and it makes you look quite bad.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure when leveraging influencers that you maintain the sense of control and ownership over the message that you want these people to say. That's the only way that influencers can really partner with you in a way that you still have a sense of brand authority.
Great answer. Let's now move to your book, Kate. Muting the megaphone, stop telling stories and start having conversations. Before we talk about the book, I'm assuming it's available on Amazon.
It is.
Okay,
yes.
So I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Kate's book, and I'm going to check out the book as well. So Kate, tell me about your book and what was your hypothesis when you wrote the book?
Well, first off, I had no intention of writing a book. I love how people say, you should write a book. And I remember a few years ago being a mom of 4 young children. I said, no, that's a terrible idea. I have no time for that. But, here's what happened is I wrote this book a year ago in only 1 week. And I did it because finally I got to a point where people kept asking me, can you write down the formula of what you do for businesses? And I thought, well, sure, let me put this into book form. The hypothesis of the book is truly the hypothesis of my life's work, which is we need to move away from this complex storytelling type of marketing. Storytelling is not bad. The problem is, as marketers, we have taken that concept and we've gone totally rogue. We have made it all about us. And the whole principle of my book is the only way to really engage your prospects in a way where they want to purchase is to create brand conversation that allow for them to engage after they see or read every part of your messaging. So that's what I talk about. And in this book, I go into teaching you the brand trifecta method, teaching you how to actually write those 3 pieces of your message.
How wonderful. And do you want to talk a little bit about the 3 pieces that you talk about?
Yes, absolutely. So this book unpacks those 3 core concepts again. We'll start at the top where what I do is I actually teach you how do you build target audiences, find your core brand's tone of voice, define those audiences, and then I teach you how to physically write the brand trifecta, which is number 1, a tagline that says, this is what I do. Number 2, a value proposition statement that says, Here's how we solve your specific pain. And then number 3, a set of differentiator statements, those big points, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's how I'm different and better than the rest.
Very interesting. And my last question to you now, Kate, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing journey and all your understanding of brands, what would you say are 3 lessons or 3 learnings you want our viewers and listeners to take away from our conversation?
I think number 1, the most important thing that you can do is, whether you are an individual and you're a leader thinking about your own brand, or you run an organization. Number 1 is, I want you to remember that what's most important is to remember who you are and to stand in your purpose and your truth of what problems you solve and why you're here. The second piece is, remember who you're trying to talk to and why, those target audiences. You are not in the business of convincing. You are in the business of converting. It is not your job to serve everybody, but it is your job to speak to the few who will most deeply resonate with what you do and will find value in what you provide.
Correct.
And the third thing is, creating a simple message is the most important thing you can do to get more of the right prospects to the right table at the right time. That's when the value is created and you are no longer in this position of feeling like you have to sell, but you're really inviting the right audiences to the table to have that rich discussion of how you can partner together.
Fascinating. And on that note, and your 3 wonderful lessons, remember who you are and what your purpose is. Second, you said was, you're in the business of converting, not communicating, or convincing, converting, not convincing. And the third one you said was, invite the right audience for your message. Thank you, Kate, for speaking to me about your journey, about branding, about your book, about influencers, and about so many different aspects of branding. Thank you again, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website, www.tbcy.in, to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.